Hello, Booktube. Well, I come to you in the middle of what Norse mythology refers to as the Fimbulwinter. It is unbelievably cold in Boston tonight. Unbelievably cold. I was just out with the little bean for a bathroom break, and it was just unearthly. And that, of course, is only going to get worse. Tonight, there are going to be heavy wind gusts tonight. The temperature is just going to drive down and down and down. And it's not going to get very warm tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday. It was going to be the date of the Boston Public Library book sale, but Boston declared a cold emergency, so the Friends of the Library canceled the sale. Probably be next weekend instead. So uh, all we have to do is get through tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night. Sunday, we warm up by 10 degrees every hour and stay that way probably for the rest of February. It's just this one little burst of dangerous, dangerous air. Oh, my heart, as I said in a video the other day, my heart goes out to those poor dogs that are out in this weather. My heart just goes out to them. I know they're out there, and not just dogs either. A part of my heart goes out for my coyotes, just a mile away in the arboretum. They have a den, of course, but they have to hunt at night. They can't go without eating. I'm hoping that they have the sense to go without eating tonight, because you could seriously damage yourself if you went out in this weather, coyote or no coyote. Although canines have a few physiological adaptations that help them to deal with unexpected cold, they aren't miracles. I just thought I would. Oh God, there's okay. There are 50 people here already. This started a minute ago, and I'm missing the chat already. I wanted to talk about books. Naturally, I wanted to talk about all the books that are in read-alongs on BookTube these days, right now, this moment. It's just we just got back in, and the cold outside is unbelievable. So that was on my mind. What you're all saying hi to me? Good, that's great. You should. Matt Sheridan says it's cold in New York. Yes, I've been told. Although New York doesn't get to talk about cold to Boston, and Boston doesn't get to talk about cold to Mark Richardson because it's a lot colder up in Vermont. Uh, uh, that reading guy says it's extremely cold and windy in Canada. Yeah, we're all getting the same Arctic blast, and it is going to recede for everybody at about the same time and about the same speed. Monet Doyle says hello. Oliver Anderson says hello. Omnipotent Poobah is here. Boston is negative 16 Celsius. That is cold. I hope you have plenty of Cormac McCarthy novels to burn to keep you warm. I just got Tom LeClaire, the author and critic Tom LeClaire, giving me the great pleasure of reviewing books for Open Letters Review, the online literary review where I'm one of the editors, and we don't pay, and we have a low readership. It's a key readership, every editor and publicist, but it's not a large number. He could easily put his work elsewhere, but he runs pieces with us. That's wonderful. We always manage to attract people like that. And he just filed with me a review of the two new Cormac McCarthy books, and it's a terrific review. I don't agree with it at all. That's all. I also don't agree with it at all. But anyway, here I'm losing the chat. And also, negative 16 Celsius. I have no idea what that means. First time in history reader, and I'm loving A Distant Mirror so far. Yes, I'm getting those messages from a lot of people, and I got to tell you, they are amazingly joy-inducing. Not just the people saying, I do read history, but I've never read this and I'm enjoying it. But people saying, not only I don't read history, but I honestly thought history was sort of forbidden to me. I honestly thought like I didn't have the chops to do it, despite the fact that I have been railing that isn't true for years on this channel. You think people believe me by now. I also railed about it for years and years before there was a BookTube, before there was a YouTube, before there was an internet. Yeah, railing and railing to people saying, no, that just means you've read bad historians. That's all. Or people who were gatekeeping for history, as we now use the term gatekeeping. Good books are good books. So that is what's wonderful to hear. People are enjoying this. It's meant to be enjoyed. Kevin JN says, hey, Steve, today's my birthday, and this stream is a nice surprise. I also got to play with a 10-year-old beagle yesterday. It was wonderful. Well, happy birthday. I can imagine that it would be wonderful. I intentionally restrict my contact with beagles these days, just reflexively now. I don't even think about it anymore. because it's not fair. They have a particular wavelength with me, and it's not fair to any other dog if I do that, including my own dogs. Very much including my own dogs. Years and years and years ago, when my girls were young, my pointer and my basset hound were young, we were living over in South Boston, and I one week I started hearing a dog wailing in misery in the same building all day long, hours on end. And I knocked on the door of the apartment where it was happening, and there's no answer. I left a note saying, your dog is barking all day long. Please contact me. Got no response. Finally, left a little more straightforward a note. Let's just put it that way, saying your dog is howling in misery all day long. How can you know that and not even bother to respond to someone who's concerned? And that got a response. And the man let me into his home, and there was a beagle right there in the kitchen in a cage. And the guy he had ferret, he had lizards in cages, way too many pets. He was one of those pet accumulators. And I said to him, please let me walk your dog once a day. Just give me a key to your place. You can tell already that I'm trustworthy. I have that vibe, as the kids say. People know it right away. I get that all the time from people. Let me help you, and people just do. It's a dog. It's a canine thing. I'm sure it's a canine thing. But he said yes. So I fell into the habit for a solid week of walking my girls and then taking that beagle on enormous walks around Boston, not just South Boston, but everywhere. Enormous walks, hours at a time. And I could feel myself slipping away from my girls, who I loved. So at the end of that week, he said, I realize that I'm overcommitted now. I'm really grateful for your concern. I'd like to give you this dog. And I said yes, because I didn't want him to do anything else. I was the right way station. But I started the wheels in motion to find a home for that dog. I knew immediately the first night when he got to know my girls. This was before my pointer became very overprotective of my basset hound. She was accepting of other dogs. She was young enough at that point. And that first night, when they curled up at their places at the bottom of the bed, I sat back to read, and that beagle, young as he was, probably 7 months old, 8 months old, something like that, young as he was, the minute they settled down on the bed, he settled down with them on the bed. Then I leaned back to read, and he came right up and laid right there, because beagles know. They know as well as I do. And I knew in that moment that if I kept him, I would ignore my girls. They would not get the full love that they deserve. So I found him a really good home. And so I know the feeling. Let's just put it that way. Uh, Maymore Chud says Omnipotent Poo, asking Omnipotent Poo, did you choose centigrade? Well, let's keep in mind all the rest of the world does, but nevertheless, it is weird. That reading guy says try wearing a mask and glasses outside. Your breath freezes on your. Oh, did I lose you? I think I lost you. Oh my God, what is wrong with this chat? Your breath freezes on your lenses. Yes, well, I stopped wearing glasses. I should use a face covering tonight and tomorrow morning. I should use it. I have a muffler that goes all the way up to here, and I really should do that. Uh, Hello from Maryland. Nathan Fong is here. Says hi, Steve. Shoemaker is here. Good morning. Cozy 3 degrees Celsius in northern Germany, but 3 days of heavy winds over here. Oh my. J. Scott Phillips. Steve, where can I get one of those beanies? This was custom made for me by Hannah at Hannah's Books. so because I was joking with her about the fact that a huge chunk of Booktube has always and still very much considers me to be Satan incarnate. So she made me a hat with horns. They not only think that about me, that I'm Satan incarnate, but they indoctrinate new booktubers about that. Hey, did you get a comment from this guy? You should watch out for him. He's really evil. It's cartoonish, and it's a cabal now. So it happens to new generations of booktubers. And those of you who watch my channel, there are a whole bunch of words that you could use to describe me. Evil is not one of them. I am not Satan incarnate. So it's all just anyway, that's the origin of this hat, and I don't know that Hannah would have the time or inclination to make one for anybody else. Jenny Park says, what's strange in Scotland is it's oddly warm, currently 6 degrees at midnight. Skolder Svarter Chicken says, I came here for the Greek marble pectoral. Well, I covered it up because it's only 2 degrees. Otherwise, I don't want to do any damage to it. Although, All the cool kids on the so-called fitness YouTube take cold baths in temperatures almost as bad as this. Uh, Sid says halfway through chapter 5, the plague chapter of A Distant Mirror, and it has been thrilling read so far, even though this stretch is a little bit difficult to read. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Two kinds of plague. One that would kill you and one that would kill you really fast. And it is. After a while, when you're getting through that chapter, it always has the same effect on me, where at first you're thinking about how horrible it must have been to get this. I mean, the mnemonic version killed you very quickly, oftentimes the same day. Famously, the famous saying was you could be laughing at breakfast and dead by supper. But the other kind, the actual bubonic plague, was a slower and much more grotesque process. You felt terrible for days before you died. And you knew that you were going to die, even though some people lived. They got all of the symptoms. You felt like you had just stone hands grabbing you on the inside of your body. Not exactly cramps, but a horrible, painful, gripping feeling everywhere. And you vomited, and you were sick and sweating, and of course, signally, you developed buboes. You developed big, hard, black-tipped eggs in bunches all along your lymph system. So everywhere along where your lymph system runs, especially famously under your arms and in your groin. Some people developed those symptoms to full extent and still lived, but very few. Most people died, and the fact is, the reality is that you knew you were going to die. And Tuckman spends some time on the symptoms, but when I read that chapter again, I'm struck not so much by the horrific physical reality as by the feeling that everyone around you is dying. The whole world is dying. How horrible it must have been on a mental level. And boy, doesn't it give the lie to organized religions of any kind. Because we're talking about an almost exclusively Christian world, and it terrified people. It absolutely terrified people. Anyway, even though they would have had time enough to get confessed and shriven and whatnot. Anyway, where am I here? Matt Sheridan. I just started reading the Pope Patrick and loved it. Yes, indeed. Pope Patrick, needless to say, his affection for his dog. Uh, it touched me on a deep level. There's a quick exchange at one point where somebody says that uh, dogs don't have souls like ours, and Patrick says, no, they're better. But to me, one of the standout scenes in the whole book is when he does a protracted thought experiment about Northern Ireland to the British Prime Minister. It's just unbelievable, unbelievably good. I need to reread the book. Uh, let's see here. Gandhi Angle says thoughts on the new biography of Norman Mailer. One critic described it as a literary punch. Are you implying, Gandhi Angles, that you have not read my review? So you're catting around town with other reviewers. Okay, well, that's great. So you're seeing other reviewers behind my back, and I've had a review up for days, and you haven't read it. Hmm, okay. All right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Hannah's books is here. Lovely knitwear. Yes, I've got your masterpiece here, and I've got Sarah's masterpiece here. These things run down the wrist. One thing about fingerless gloves, I have another pair, and they're only here, so you're constantly hiking up your sweater or your sweatshirt. These things run all the way down your wrist. They're just wonderful, just wonderful. Mary Moore Chud, did you read Ace double paperbacks way back when? If so, what are some of your favorites? I did. I read them. You got twice the book for the money, but I don't have any favorites. If I saw a list of them, I could probably point out some books that were good. Westerns aren't good, of course, but there were some ace doubles of science fiction where you would get a really good science fiction novel in there. But I don't remember favorites at all. Monet Doyle says, "Have you read the McIntyre Security Bodyguard series by April Winson?" I don't think so. Not sure that I have. Can you give me the title of one of the books? I don't think I have. Allie K says, "Got Distant Mirror and am loving it. My dog is annoyed I'm not giving him more attention while reading it." Well, I'm doing a Stevestream right now. Wow, I simultaneously pet the bean. So if I can do that, so can you. Don't get me in trouble with your dog, of all people. Oh, Fit to Be Read is here. Finished Beggars in Spain. A lot of issues with the writing and weak dialogue. Also, never seen it referred to. Oh, did I lose you? No, I don't want to lose you. You were in the middle of an interesting comment, and that's so rare for you. Oh, there you are. Uh, Also, never seen it referred to as young adult. Definitely feels like it, though. Your take, almost a juvenile Atlas shrugged. There's very much an element of simplicity there. I know what you mean by YA. There's an element of narrative simplicity. And I know that it's beloved, and I love it. But there are also, if we want to call a spade, there are patches in it of stupidity, of narrative stupidity. What was your diplomatic issues with the writing and weak dialogue? Yes, there are issues with the writing. Is a wonderful way to put it. I don't know. I don't know. There was there was a Harry Turtledove novel. I know he's not considered anything. He's considered, D-rate science fiction. But he did a science fiction novel. It wasn't Guns of the South. Guns of the South is really good. But he did a science fiction novel. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Was it Household Gods? About a modern day woman who's transported to ancient Rome. That I think it wanted to do a lot of what Beggars in Spain wanted to do. Yeah, I don't. Uh, I agree. Issues with the writing and weak dialogue. There were parts of it that were dumb. Omnipotent Poobah says, I have just finished the tough guy biography of Mailer. It's a pretty weak effort. You suspect there is a grudge being settled for something that lopsided to make it to print. I disagree completely. I wrote a review of Tough Guy. That's the review that I was talking about a little bit earlier, and I am familiar with the source material. There might have been a grudge, but it was a grudge. I would guess that it was a grudge of a reader whose time was wasted, not when you write that something is that you got the feeling of a grudge being settled, you are implying that the assessments are unfair, and I didn't see any unfair assessments in that book. Uh, Jair M says, "Hello all, just started Ronnie McKenna's The Rice Mother and enjoying it very much. I think I saw that get some play on BookTube." Andrew Russell, at what point in life did you realize that dogs would play such a big role in your story, and how did this come about? They came first before the story of my life. They were there from the beginning. I was raised and socialized by them, so there was no moment where I thought, hey, no, they came first. Humans came after. Void Being, can you say a few sentences in all the languages you know? Never heard you speak them. Very fascinating, especially the Latin. Why would I do such a poncy, pretentious thing? Why? Why would I do that? Fit to be read. I think Waterworld in Maryland is a plant from the Pikesville Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble keeps making the news for doing well in a poor economy. Yuri, not Ure, says, hello from the future. Saturday has come here 3 hours ago. Oh my. Well, 3 hours from now, it's going to be 2 degrees Fahrenheit outside. That's not going to be pleasant at all. Not at all. I am really hoping that I mean, Frida and she has to go out one more time tonight, and I'm really hoping that I can get her to just empty all the reserve tanks so that she never feels like getting up in the morning anyway. She's really not a morning person. I have to get her out of bed in the morning, and I'm really hoping that tomorrow she can like stay in until noon or something like that, because I don't think we're not going to want to go out at 7 in the morning. Let's see here. That reading guy says, currently reading Alas Babylon and Cynical Theories. My book club buying ban meant I could not join the STD book club, unfortunately. Well, I'd be happy to send you a copy of the book. Still join, and there's still plenty of time. We haven't officially started talking about part one, the first half of the first part of the book. Mary Moore Chud says, thoughts on Sax Rohmer's Fu Manchu series. Should there be a reboot of the series a la the Sterling Cohen novel? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Fu Manchu could not be rebooted. It could not be redone in the present day. You're a racist for even mentioning it. No, Yellow Peril novels cannot be resuscitated. So the only peril that exists now is white peril. And somehow that's not racism. But Fu Manchu, no. I enjoy the novels. They're good, cheesy fun. But I'm trying to remember who it was. What was the publisher? There was an American publisher that did a beautiful uniform set of big, fat volumes, reprinting everything Fu Manchu by Sax Rohmer. And I saw that set at the Brattle like last year, something like that. And my first thought was, you All everyone associated with this, every single publicist, every part of the publishing, the publisher itself, you would all have been blacklisted on social media. You would have been threatened. Your kids would have been threatened. Your offices would have been firebombed. You got in just in time with this new reprint, but you couldn't do it now. Not a chance. No way. Oh, the Spaminator is here. Wow, wait, what? Evil commenter? They sending out notices about me now? No, there are other evil. You're not my only supervillain, bub. Jack O'Hara, Steve, what is the art piece that was behind you in some recent videos? There's a tea drinking setting and an animal with a newspaper in its pocket. I haven't seen it before. Oh, it's a big post. I should show it. It's a big poster of. It's not out here, right? No, it's in the other room. It's a big poster of Mr. Mole from The Wind in the Willows, who's sitting there reading. He's sitting there reading books. Just a big poster of him reading books, and the books all have Spinoza and whatnot on the title. And I saw it for years and years at a used bookstore in Boston called the Brandeis Bookstall. It was a little subterranean room that was run by Brandeis University where they sold used books. And there were two old ladies who ran that shop. They were there every day. And they did not care anymore at all. They did all the math by mind. They didn't have a calculator or anything like that. And they didn't care at all about anything else either. One of them would talk to the other for 30 minutes and then pause, look at the other for response. And the other one would say, I don't have my hearing aids on. I didn't hear a word you said. And one day I was there. It was a hot summer day. And I was shopping around, found a bunch of stuff that I wanted. And I noticed the poster on the wall. And just on a whim, I said, in addition to these books, could I buy that poster? Is it for sale? And the lady said, hon, everything here is for sale. So she sold it to me for $2. I rolled it up. I was careful with it. I rolled it up, and instead of bringing it back to where I lived, I brought it straight to a print shop and said, can you put a cheap frame over this so I can hang it on the wall? And they did for like $10, and I love it. Absolutely love it. I'll have to show it the next time it's in the background. But I don't know where you would ever see it. I don't know where you would see another copy of that poster. I'd never seen it before. That's why I grabbed it. Danielle, Bluegrass Reader, says, hi, Steve and Frida. Frida is right here next to me, trying to keep warm. Sean G says, sounds like me after eating Taco Bell. Do you know what that's referring to? J. Scott Phillips says, what's going on in February fantasy stories? Well, we have a lot of ongoing events. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. With all the books that people are talking about. Are all of you reading A Prisoner of Zenda for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, for instance? And then there's The Two Towers, and there's A Distant Mirror, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, and February fantasy stories, which I announced it mainly so that people would feel that there was this event if they want the extra goose to read fantasy. But I need to do a couple of status update videos on it. This weekend, maybe. I had planned on losing a chunk of tomorrow to the Boston Public Library book sale. But Mayor Wu declared a cold emergency, and the Friends of the Boston Public Library canceled the book sale. So I won't be doing that. Hamilton Thompson, hello, Steve. Glad you're geared up for tonight's blast of cold. Yes, a blast of cold. We'll just have to hope for the best. That's all. Have to hope that the pipes don't burst. Matt Sheridan, any thoughts on the Chinese balloon hovering over the U.S.? No, no, I don't have any thoughts over the Chinese balloon hovering over the U.S. It's not an armed balloon. I've been thinking all day about that idiot congressperson Lauren Boebert and a comment that she made that you may have seen, where she talked about how the United States has 25% of the guns in the world. Showed a chart that had a massive amount of guns per capita, and then smiled that kind of Rush Limbaugh, I'm playing a supervillain, but I actually am also a supervillain, smile, and said, we need to get those numbers up. Just standing there in the well of Congress, just saying, we need more guns, just because I like guns. I like the damage they do. I like the violence they represent. We need more of them. Just a completely psychotic sentiment, voiced in public in front of cameras, and there's a tiny flap, but nothing else. Nothing will happen at all. We need to get those numbers up. We have 500 million guns in the United States. We need more of them. We need more guns just because I want more guns. I want guns everywhere. Just a totally psychotic thing, and no one cared. Barely anybody mentioned it. The usual hand wringing on the usual suspects, but I'm thinking more along the lines of that than the Chinese balloon story. uh, Blue Laser Ryan says, "Hello, Steve. I missed the peg, so I had to cover them up because it's so cold." It's like, well, actually, let's do a quick real time update with Matthew Capucci's weather app. Uh, yes, it is 4 degrees here in Boston, and it's going down to 2 degrees and then below 0 Fahrenheit here. So I couldn't have the guns on display. May Moore Chud says, thoughts on the hard case crime imprint. I think I liked it. I'm pretty sure that I did. Kevin J.N. Remember George Carlin's jokes about America's obsession with children? He would have loved the treatment of kids in A Distant Mirror. Well, yeah, that opens the whole discussion about when childhood started and what childhood has always been. What are you doing, baby? Where are you going, little one? Oh, Frida, that doesn't look comfortable. Oh, so baby. Uh, yeah, well, where childhood and the evolving social roles is something that we'll have to talk about as soon as I can figure out uh, how to do a book club. I should have figured out how to do a book club before I launched one, but even so, Martin S says I have Pope Patrick coming. Well, a bunch of you went out and bought Pope Patrick. Did you all do that because you saw it on my library tour? That's fantastic. I wonder, is Peter DeRosa still alive? Will he notice that he's had a small uptick in sales, or were you buying these? Are you buying these in the second hand? You must be, because I'm pretty sure Pope Patrick is not in print anymore. Uh, oh, the chat jumped on me again. What's going on here? I don't want to miss anything. Uh, let's see. Goodness gracious, there are 90 people here. Uh, let's see here. The chat jumped on me. I want to make sure that I'm not. Uh, Mary Moore Chud says, "Who was the better silver screen Batman, Big Keaton, Kilmer, or Clooney?" Well, you're just bombarding me with totally random questions, aren't you? Kilmer's the best of those three, but they're all bad. Uh, Fit to be read. Your knitwear look is giving me Harvey Fierstein cat burglar vibes. I can't help it. It's chilly in Hyde Cottage. It's just after a certain point, when it gets this cold, there's really nothing that heating can do in a house this old. There's really nothing. I'm glad that I replaced the windows. The windows are all new. God Almighty, the old windows, this would have been an icebox. But even so, you gotta augment just a bit. DeSelby says, I remember using the word buboes in a Scrabble game only to be frowned upon with a heavy tut tut. No fabrication of words, please, was the order of the day. Well, we don't have it anymore. Republicans would love to see it back. Give me more buboes. Give me more of the Black Death. That's what toughened us up as kids. uh, Void Being says, ever read? Okay, all right. That's enough of the completely stupid random questions. Okay. Goodness gracious. James Rucala says, thoughts on David Harbour's carpeted bathroom in Architectural Digest. If not, what's the worst candy bar? Okay, so we're getting just random questions here. Gypsy Rose says, Steve, I was having a conversation with Al on Chat GPT, and the AI knew you, and when I with the AI, and the AI knew you, and when I asked if it knew me, it replied, in summary, I only know about people of significance. I don't understand a single word of that comment. Not one. Well, actually, that's not true. I know the verb to ask, and I know a couple of the definite articles, but I don't know anything else. I don't understand anything else around it. Jack O'Hara says, "Is it difficult reliving the events of a distant fit to be read? Gypsy Rose, I know you. I know you. Oh, okay. Maybe he understood the comment." Hamilton Thompson says, "Is this the jibber jabber pre-STD book stream? So we stay on topic." Well, we've been extra jibber jabber because a couple of people wanted to ask to just a bombardment of ostentatiously random questions. Gola Muad'Dib says, finished reading The Return of the Noldor in the Silmarillion today. My copy of Morgoth's Ring and War of the Jewels arrived in the mail. Can't wait to read those. Boy, you're in deep in the Tolkien. So are you joining us for David Wiley and I for our impromptu read along of the Two Towers? We wanted to have a couple of other booktube channels involved, and they couldn't be bothered even to return emails. So, because I guess Gen Z, I don't really know. But David's plenty good company, and I love talking about these things anyway. Uh, Mary Maymore Chud says, "Have you ever read Murray DeSelby Turtle Dove Videsso series? Legion series was great stuff." I agree. I agree. It was. Yeah, it's the what DeSelby is talking about here is a fantasy story that Harry Turtledove wrote, where uh, Roman legion is misplaced in time, and it was really really good. The first, I think, isn't it the first book that's called The Misplaced Legion? It was really really enjoyable. You get a sort of a taste of that, of different the militaries of different time periods somehow encountering each other. Also in his book, the Guns of the South, where the Confederacy during the American Civil War, through time travel mishap or whatnot, come across a crate of automatic rifles. And how would that make a difference? Of course it would. So, utterly fascinating. Read by Fred is here. Cold up here in Canada too. Negative 16 degrees Fahrenheit. Good Lord. In the house with my hoodie on, watching the Stevestream. Well, as you know, if you watch my channel, I wear hoodies all the time because I'm really old. And I've reached the point now where I have three unvarying dictums in life. I'm always hungry. It's always too cold. And the music is always too loud. And now it's definitely true because it's really cold outside. Uh, Connor says, I finally started reading Herodotus. He's such a captivating storyteller. What I'm assuming you're reading him in translation. What translation are you using? On point. If all ebooks were between $5 and $7, do you think more people would gravitate towards them? It's hard to justify paying $12.99 for an ebook. I agree. The publishing market knew perfectly well what they had. They saw how the readership numbers, they didn't publish a lot of them, but they saw the readership numbers and the vast amount of traffic that was going to e-reading because of $2 books. That the Kindle brand built its universal popularity on that. People weren't in love with this little boxy thing, this little device. They were in love with the fact that through that device they could get $2 books. I do not understand why the publishing industry is shooting itself in the foot like this. You overprice ebooks and people will go to their libraries, as a lot of people did. A lot of people were driven into the arms of their library by piratically overpriced ink and paper books. It's like they don't know any better, so they're just literally repeating the same mistake they made before, only in a new venue. Uh, Up Down says my heating has been broken since Sunday. Oh my God! Here's hoping you live in Antigua. Omnipotent Poobah cough. Did someone say 14K Q&A? It's not going to happen. I don't know if you've noticed on BookTube, but something has definitely changed with BookTube's algorithm, or with BookTube's the ordinary process of getting videos out on BookTube, because channels barely get subscribers anymore. Every once in a while, the algorithm will actually snag a channel and catapult it. Suddenly, in the course of a month, you'll have 5,000 new subscribers. But most channels, the subscribers have dried up almost completely. I bet we don't reach 14K this year. I bet we don't. But if we do reach 14K, we will do a 14K Q&A. We haven't had one of those in a long time. The user whose name I can't read. Very much so. I hate seeing ebooks be more expensive than the retail physical. Yeah, that I don't get at all. I don't understand it at all. DeSelby says, even the ghastly deeds, Basil the Bulgar Slayer getting referenced. Gandhi Uncle says, thoughts on American historian H.W. Brand's books. I really like them. Generally speaking, I really like them. He's written a couple that I really like. I like more than the rest of his. I liked the fact that for a while he was unconnected. He was almost, he wasn't, we've fallen into the habit now that historians need to be attached to an Institute of Higher Learning, part of the academy. And that always bothers me. I don't think that's healthy. And for a while, Brands wasn't. I don't know if he stayed that way for the rest of his life, but for a while, no. Void Being says, pretentious. Are you implying that you can't speak all those languages mayhaps? Well, that was the gist of your question. I might be wearing a funny hat, but I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday, and I don't like the implication. So, right, it's my live stream. I get to pick and choose whether or not I want to be tested by somebody, or especially in such an ostentatious way. Uh, Jenny Park says, "Oh, you're referring to On Point. Even worse when they want 9.99 for a novella. I know. The ebook prices are amazing. They're just amazing. It's ridiculous." And it is going to have the same effect that overpriced books had, overpriced physical books in bookstores. I mean, bookstores suffered because rents went up. Around the time of the Great Recession, rents went through all kinds of crazy gymnastics. But the factor that the book industry never wants to point a finger at is that books have been steadily becoming inaccessibly expensive. When I get a new hardcover in the mail and it's $35, I might talk about it on my channel. I might review it. I will almost certainly review it, or at least talk with its author. But one of my first thoughts is, what about the rest of you? Who can set aside $35 for one book? Uh, uh, Joanna Burgess says, "Hi Steve, glad you made your live." Well, I was feeling, the withdrawal. It had been a long time since we did a live, so I think I'll do a few of them in the upcoming week. Hamilton Thompson says, "Steve, Gypsy Rose says brings up a chat AI. Have you watched the video of a guy using it to write first 10 chapters of a dog training book?" I have no idea what you're talking about. None at all. I am not understanding the words, and I am completely missing the reference. AI. So there's an AI program that knows me. Very much doubt that. Joanna Burgess says it is a balmy -47 degrees here in northern Maine. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Mark Richardson, the fellow booktuber Richardson Rees, he lives up across the border in Vermont, and he's getting much worse cold than we are. And you're much further up than he is. You're where my dad is. So God help us. Be careful. As Miss Saint Ma used to say, be careful. Remember, you can undergo serious tissue damage in very little time, 10 minutes, less if there's a wind. So be careful. You already know this, but be careful. Let's see here. Void Being is back. Also, have you ever heard of Round the Horn on the radio in the 60s? It has an almost Joycean humor to it. Brilliant stuff. You may have heard it as a kid. Well, okay. Number one, in the 60s, I was 30 years away from being born, right? So I don't know what this business of me being a kid in the 50s was, the 60s was. But Round the Horn sounds familiar. That sounds really familiar. I'm drawing a blank on it, but it sounds familiar. Unless I'm thinking of something. I mean, it's a popular idiom, so I may be thinking of something else. Jess Book Girl TV says, "Hi, everyone." It's not everyone. It's just me. They're all losers. It's just me. Eyes on the prize. Okay. Oliver Anderson says, "Reading Gormenghast with a friend of mine this month, hoping that it will cover my obligation for FFS." Well, it partly will, right? In a couple of ways. Probably in a couple of the categories it will. Boy, oh boy, it's better than most of the things you could pick. That's an enterprising friend, though. I don't think I could find a friend off the top of my head that was really willing to read that with me. Andrew Russell, what did you think of? Okay. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Just assume that I have not read any of the things that you're asking. What did you think about? Especially since you're not asking. You're not genuinely asking, what do I think? You're Void Being says, "Do you prefer Alexander Pope's Iliad or an Odyssey, or Dryden's Aeneid and Metamorphoses?" Pope's is more beautiful to read, but Dryden's my guy. No one comes between me and Dryden. Sean G says, "Things would be a lot safer if everyone was armed. That's just a fact." It's a fact in some delusional paranoid's mind. It's not a fact in reality at all. It's demonstrably not true. We have many. America is not the world. We have many, many examples of societies where where the exact opposite of that is true. The numbers are absolutely incontrovertible. So that is only a fact in the sense of whatever I say or think or want to say or think is a fact. It's not a fact in actual observable reality. Guns make everything more dangerous. That is just as simple as could be. If you don't believe that, then walk into a break room with a coworker you really, really dislike on Monday And then on Tuesday, walk into the same break room with the same coworker you really, really dislike and a loaded gun on the table. If you're willing to tell me that you feel exactly the same way in both cases, in other words, that the gun made no difference, made nothing more dangerous, then maybe your alternate fact has some grounds in reality. But you know as well as I do that you wouldn't go into that second room. So you're just trying to get my goat. You succeeded. But Yuri, not Yuri, says, "Hey, Steve, what do you make of George Martin's Fire and Blood? How about a read along to follow the medieval sort of theme?" Well, no chance of a read along, but I kind of liked Fire and Blood. I kind of liked it more than I thought I would. Uh, Gola Muad'Dib says it was a red balloon. There should be 99 red balloons. Uh, well, the chat has jumped again. Oh, I don't want to miss any of your precious pennings. Oh, God help us. Connor says, uh, "Did I miss you? You were here somewhere. Oh my God! Look at there are 90 people in the chat. How is this even possible?" Uh, Connor says, "Here in Louisville, the wind is so cold, it feels like I'm being stabbed." It was exactly the thought that I had when I was out with the bean an hour ago. It felt like I was being struck, that people were striking me as we were walking. Unbelievable. And, it affects her the same way. It might not affect her lower extremities, her the legs. Uh, Dogs have a physiological adaptation that helps them with that. But her eyes, her nose, she's an indoor dog. It's pretty brutal for her as well. Uh, let's see here. Sid, people see 80 people in Steve's live chat. We need to get these numbers up. Yeah. In that case, we need to get these numbers up is fine. But I know that in the parade of psychopathy that we have endured in American politics since 2016, things like this just pass by. We don't even think about them. But imagine that. An elected official in the US Congress saying, "I want more guns. I don't want more guns for police or for safety reasons. I just want there to be more guns, just in general. I just love them." A totally insane thing to say, and it barely made a ripple. Uh, let's see here. Andrew said, "Oh, Andrew's commenting that Sean says I'm going to assume that's sarcasm. Who knows? Uh, it's not on the borderline. It's not even arguable. So whether it's sarcasm or not, it's beyond the pale." Alan Black says, "Hi Steve, what's your opinion on Liz Truss wanting to make a comeback? If she ever came back, do you think she will outlive another fresh head of lettuce?" I am mystified by the talk that I have seen about that. Just mystified. Surely someone in her orbit knows that in addition to being totally unviable, she is also now a meme. There is no countervening that. There is no coming back from being memeified. That cannot happen. I don't know how she doesn't know that. Uh, D Temple 54 says thoughts on Claude. Okay, on the Claude Manceron books on the French Revolution. I haven't read them. Martin S says I got Pope Patrick on eBay. It seems out of print, and yes, I got it because I saw it on your video. How wonderful! Andrew Russell says, "Do you like modern jazz music, Steve? And if so, do you have any favorite artists?" No, can't stand it. Uh, Afraid not. Wish I did. I know a lot of people who do. I can't stand it. No. Uh, Matt Sheridan says Michael Keaton by a mile. If that is a reference to the earlier question about Keaton, Clooney, or Kilmer, you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. You're not nuts in the same way as someone who says that we're safer if we have more guns, but you're still nuts. That is it just as the kids on Twitter say, objectively speaking, that's just insane. He is so unbelievably miscast in that first movie. I Gandhi Angle says, "I enjoy." Boy, this is very contentious, Stevestream, isn't it? I thought you people missed me. You are throwing lob balls at me everywhere. Uh, Gandhi Angle says, "I enjoyed Mao, the Unknown Story by Judy Chang and John Holliday. Wasn't it good? Very good book. Yeah, very good. And if you enjoyed that, you might enjoy. There's a new biography coming out, I think, in March about Chiang Kai-shek that is incredible. It's incredibly good. I haven't got a copy yet on my channel, but I read it. Excuse me, I read an e-copy. And when I do get a copy, I'm going to sing its praises. It's just amazingly good. Uh, Reed Becca says, "I'm sad to be missing out the STD this month, but delightfully caught a copy of A Distant Mirror at the $5 fill-a-bag day at the local charity book sale yesterday." Well, okay, if you have a copy, why are you missing out? You have something against catching an STD? Why are you missing out if you have the book? Of course you should join us. What are you talking about? Uh, you're telling me that you have the book and you're still not going to join the Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club? Aaron Hook says, Steve, have you read any of the works of that genius of the romance genre, Rosie M. Banks? Oh, I know only a shop girl practically by heart. You have changed my life. Yes, I know all about Rosie M. Banks. Yes, I do. The Spaminator. I've always wondered this. How did Hyde Cottage get its name? My Surly Houseboy thought it up, and I thought it was so outlandish that I loved it. I latched onto it right away. That was so long ago. And I latched onto it right away. Some of you who've watched my channel, or maybe the handful of you who know me, I don't think there's anybody here who knows me in real life, especially if Hannah's not here anymore. But in my real life, I name everything. I name the things that I like and use all the time. I give people a lot of nicknames. I often do that, and places and things. I don't want to just say a bland name for something. I give it a name. I invest things with personality. So I latched onto that right away. Taylor Brock says, your look today reminds me of the grumpy old men. Where is the fishing pole? Well, these are my devil horns. Can't really see them in this light, but it's necessary. It is not possible to warm this place up completely when it's this cold outside. The heat does its job, but this is an old house. There's only so much can be done. I'm so glad that I had the windows replaced. Oh my God. I'm so glad. These windows are new. They do not let in drafts. They are plastic, so they don't shrink or expand or anything like that. They're a godsend. God knows how much worse this place would be if I hadn't done that. Boy, the count on this Stevestream is going wildly up and down, or maybe I'm not reading it right. Looks to me like it goes up to 100, then back down to 90, then back up to 100, then back down to 90. What's going on there? Uh, I, let's see here. I did mean to have a subject today. I was going to talk about books: The Two Towers, A Distant Mirror, and Prisoner of Zenda for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. I'm wondering how many of you are reading Prisoner of Zenda. You really should. It's a great choice. Almost everything that Michael picked is a great choice this time around. So a couple of his picks, he announced his whole year's reading, where I'm not. I'm doing Steve Donahue Book Club one book at a time. Uh, the books that he chose that don't have any interest or literary factor are such Michael K. Vaughan picks. I'm going to reread them anyway, just for that reason. Uh, Golem Muad'Dib says, yes, I'll be rereading The Two Towers. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I made a video today about the departure of Boromir, the first chapter of The Two Towers. And I also did a recap of The Lord of the Rings hitherto. And I've got a lot of emails from people thanking me for that recap and saying they really enjoyed it. That was great. That was fantastic. That's nice to know. I also got a couple of emails from people saying that they are just too type A to start with The Two Towers. They can't do it. They have to read The Fellowship first. I don't agree with that, but I did a synopsis of all the events that you need to know from The Lord of the Rings in about 10 minutes. And then I talked about the departure of Boromir only. And then I said, we'll touch base as we move forward. And I'd no sooner shut off the video than I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's not going to be any of this touching base business. I'm going to talk about the Riders of Rohan tomorrow. I'm going to talk about the Rohirrim tomorrow. I'm just going to talk about chapter 2 tomorrow. I don't care. David won't hold it against me, and the rest of everybody else, nobody else seems to mind. And I love talking about this book. So, Tracy Gruggett says, "Are you going to do the How to Read a Book series that you mentioned in a recent vid?" I thought about that. I put How to Read a Book on the Kindle, and I reread it, and I don't know that a read along of that would help. I don't know that that would be any good. I think I would end up repeating myself, which I don't mind doing, but unproductively, because I'd forgotten what a didactic book it is. I'd forgotten the exact reason why it's never been a real favorite of mine. I reread it and remembered right away. I mean, Adler says right at the beginning that this book has nothing to do with reading for enjoyment. This is reading for improvement. This is reading to break down a book and understand it, to extract its value. It would be the dude bro way of saying it here in 2023. And the whole book is about how to do that. Here's how you get the most out of reading a sentence. Here's how you get the most out of reading an index. Here's how you sift through a bibliography. With the author saying up front that he's not interested in reading for pleasure. So what would I do with such a book? I don't know that a read along of that would do any good. All and a series where I talk about each chapter would just be me saying this chapter is wrong. Unless you're working on a thesis of some kind for a school, you shouldn't read this way. I would just be saying that over and over again, chapter by chapter. I don't know that that would help anybody. That reading guy says, "Are you turning to fiction for March selection in the STV book club?" I am. We're reading a novel in March. Yep. Shouldn't be too hard to guess what novel it is, but we'll be reading a novel. Yep. Hamilton Thompson says, "We'll hopefully Boston will reschedule for next weekend. Cold Blast is one off." I think yes, this Cold Blast is not only the last genuine cold that we will get this winter, but it stands a really good chance with the weather cycles being what they are. It stands a really good chance of being the last severe cold Boston ever sees. I know I say that with every cold spell and every snowstorm, but look at what this winter has been like. This is the first time it's been cold in 12 months. We've had basically no snow, no hard frost except for tonight, and tonight doesn't count because everything's going to thaw on Sunday. It, 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 yeah, they will reschedule, and they can. They're wide open to reschedule at any other time because the weather like this is not going to happen again. So I'm hoping it's next weekend. Connor says, "I'm reading the De Selincourt translation. I know your love for his Livy translation." Yes, I am. I do love that. He does it just the right way. He had a great working method to do for his first draft before he went in and dug into the details and the specific connotations of tenses and clauses and whatnot. His initial approach was take a chunk. These ancient works often work in periods, which is a rhetorical term, but it's also a natural term. They worked in a period. In other words, here is a thought. Here is a big breath of prose. Just a big breath of prose that has a start and a finish, even though it's part of a larger chapter. It's part of an ongoing narrative. It's still, this little section still has, it's a breath on its own. And de Selincourt would take that breath, read it, absorb it, and then go out for a walk, working that breath into an equivalent English breath. And he would write that down and then work on that. And I think the results speak for themselves. Let's see here. Spaminator, do you think Delaware is a real place? I don't think it is. I mean, have you ever met anyone from there? Doubt it. I have been everywhere in the world, including Delaware. Lisa Garrity, reading A Distant Mirror after reading Willis's Doomsday Book is a strange feeling. The suffering in chapter 5 felt more intense than if I'd come cold to it. Yes. Yeah. I have my issues with Doomsday Book, same as I did with Beggars in Spain by Nancy Kress. A lot of the same issues, actually. But this means earlier in the chat, by the way. I just realized, oh my God, I'm becoming a chat dude. Next thing you know, I'll have this enormous vape that I'll just do every single 3 seconds. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Right. And there are a few other books that will do that same thing, that will really bring it home to you. But I firmly believe that history brings it home best. Like, for instance, Philip Ziegler's book, The Black Death, in my opinion, the best book that's ever been written about the Black Death, will really bring it home to you in just the same way. Just the same way as fiction, just as effectively as fiction. That reading guy says, speaking of cheap ebooks, today I bought the ebook of Isaac Deutscher's 3-volume biography of Trotsky for $1.99. You overpaid, bub. But when we're talking about cheap ebooks, I would still like it if some of you would answer my question. I've asked it 3 times now, and I'm the cat's pajamas. I should only have to ask a question once. How many of you are joining Roger's Cheap Old Book Club? Or is it that Michael K. Vaughan's channel and my channel have parallel but barely intersecting fan bases? If you want to call you people a fan base, I just realized that is gross. I am becoming a streamer, dude. Is it that they're parallel? I mean, Mike and I are friends, and our channels very much complement each other. We're both completely unpretentious readers who encourage you to read whatever you like. Same thing with Ollie, only Ollie has ascended to the Imperium with 100,000 subscribers or whatever he has now. But Michael K. Vaughan and I, we've teamed up many times. We have a lot of the same attitude. We love to joke and josh with our viewers. Is it that somehow those don't intersect? I would think that anybody who subscribed to one would subscribe to the other. but no one is answering my question about Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, about Prisoner of Zenda, which I love the book and I've read it a million times. I want to know what you all think of it, and no one's answering me. Anyway, literally when I was looking at A Distant Mirror on Amazon, 15.99 for ebook and less for physical. Email me. If I have an ebook, I'll send it to you. Uh, Smith Dukakis. Don't you have a nice last name? Mhm. Steve, great to see you. I was wondering, what is the status on your Taft biography? Thoughts on co-authorship? I love Taft and have a connection to the OSU Press. Well, I'm not going to co-author the book. I don't know where that idea comes from. No way. I have done that way too many times when my name's not going to be on the cover and I'm making a paycheck, and it was still a nightmare. Imagine if it was my project and I had an ankle weight. No, no, I won't be co-authoring it. But I shelved the Taft book years ago. I did a little work on it. I've actually written two whole manuscripts on it. I did it as fiction, and then I did it as nonfiction. Uh, but I haven't gone back to it. OSU Press would be the press that I would want to publish it with for obvious reasons. But uh, I don't have a workable manuscript. If OSU is interested, I'd be happy to dust it off and get to work. I could have it done by the end of this year. I could have a working manuscript done by the end of this year. The only thing it lacks is something you'll be able to see a mile away, which is that I have not done the on-site research. I have not gone to archives, and I would need to do that for this book. And that's a rigmarole. I'm perfectly willing to admit that. I would need to find help. Someone would have to take care of Frida while I'm gone. The only person I really trust to do that is my friend Deb, and she's up in Maine. She's not in Boston anymore. So it would be a rigmarole to do. Plus, it would take a lot of time. I'm not going to fly, so I'd have to take the train, and yeah, it would take some time. But I have shelved the project. I loved it. I loved doing it, but I've shelved it until further notice, I guess. Sean G says Thomas De Quincey would be considered pretentious these days. Anything that requires thought equals pretentious. No, 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 I don't agree. No, and no one would consider Thomas De Quincey pretentious. No one would. No one would at all. You don't. You can't be pretentious if you've featured in a novel by the author of Rambo. No, no. Anything that requires thought equals pretentious. No, no, I don't agree with that at all. There's a certain vibrational wavelength for pretension, and it has never really changed. It's I can spot it a mile off. Blue Laser Ryan says I use e-reader IQ to monitor ebook prices on Amazon. Okay, but you should also email me. If I have an ebook or something you're looking for, I'll send it to you. You can sideload it, and then Amazon's not in the picture anymore and can't recall it, right? As who was it? Troy Tradup was saying that one of the annoyances that he has about the ballooning price of ebooks from Amazon, for instance, is that if you pay that price, you're only leasing the book. Amazon can take it back in a minute, but they can't do that with sideloaded content. They can shut down your device remotely, but that would make the news. They would be out of business if they did that. If they did that and the owner went to the local press, that would make the national news, and Amazon would never sell another Kindle. But they could do it. But sideloaded content they can't touch. So let me know. Let me know if I can help. I'm here to help in everything. uh, Gandhi Angle says, I saw a speech by Brands. Greatly appreciated that he did not say, once. Yeah, a polished, poised guy. Really, really, I never met him, but I've heard from all and sundry that he was refreshing to have in a room. Uh, Gola Muad'Dib says, I'm also Dune crazy. I'm getting toward the end of Heretics. I am Dune crazy too. Believe you me, talking about chapter 1 of The Two Towers today on my channel gave me the bug to talk about all kinds of things that I love. No matter how many times I've talked about them before, and Dune was on that list. A whole bunch of weird things on that list. I would love to, but I don't. That there's a line between having a YouTube channel and simply being self-indulgent, right? I mean, my channel is self-indulgent as it is. I load almost every video with quotes, allusions, private jokes that I'm telling to myself to amuse myself. I do not, as I've said many times, I do not understand how that has garnered any kind of subscription, but uh, simply talking endlessly about the books that I love I, over and over again. I mean, part of me, of course, is tempted to go on a chapter by chapter long tour of the United States by Gore Vidal, or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or the Hannibal Lecter novels. I don't do it only because it seems like the last word in self-indulgence. Uh, anyway, this new Chat GPT thing is kind of taking the internet by storm. I've seen. I don't know what Chat GPT is, so I'm gonna have. I've noted it down already. I'm gonna have to look it up and research it. This has come up a few times tonight, and I don't know what it is. I no context whatsoever. Uh, Andrew Russell says, "Have you heard of Roger Mugford, Steve? Apparently, he pioneered dog psychology and has written a few interesting books. I have never heard of him." Blue Laser Ryan says, "People are using Chat GPT, which is an AI program, to write papers for them." Okay, so Chat GPT is an AI program, and apparently a fairly advanced one. Someone was mentioning that somebody used it to write the first few chapters of a dog training book, something like that. I don't know anything about it. I've never heard of it before. If I have, it went in one ear and out the other, so I need to research it. Hamilton Thompson says, "I remember this time last year, you were snowed in big time with Mark and Company." Yes, but keep in mind, that might seem like a standing refutation of the doomsaying that I've been saying about climate change, but keep in mind, that was the only time last year that that happened, that there was anything like that. Granted, it was outstanding. It was what, 30 inches of snow, something like that. There was no way that Frida and I could come back to Boston. There was no way we would have been able to do it. But it was an extreme rarity, and it was over in 2 days. The hot weather came back right away. Um, Matt Sheridan says, "I'm reading Ken Auletta's book on Harvey Weinstein. It's so well written, but completely infuriating to see how Weinstein was protected for so long." Yes, yes, and it is really well written, but he's not the only one. You're reading that book, and you're right next to him, 10 feet away from him in the same room, are people doing the same thing who have not become synonymous with the rot of an industry and have never faced a day of accountability. It is amazing to me. I know I've said this before, but it is amazing to me that Brian Singer is still a free man. That is amazing to me. But yeah, I agree. It is really well written. I've seen people using it for anything from, at this point, simply to do work for them. Chat GPT is what this is. I assume you mean. Uh, and yeah, I don't know anything about it. I'm gonna have to look into it. Uh, oh God, the chat jumped again. 90 people here. Reading this life says, "Hello, Steve. Oh my, the chat queen herself is here." Sergeant Earache, still considering adding the occasional movie review to the channel. No, no, Sergeant Earache. I am seriously considering a lot more than something occasional. I think I want to do a regular thing where I talk about movies. I'm just trying to figure out what it is. The natural thing would be for me to go on a slow pub crawl through Netflix, since that is still, isn't that still the go-to movie streaming service for everybody? Go on a slow pub crawl through Netflix for the things that have some kind of literary attachment, whatever that is, no matter how tenuous it is. Just go through the whole tour all the way through Netflix. I'm seriously thinking about that. Hamilton Thompson says, "Steve's here. Here's a real question for you. Any progress on the movie endeavor you mentioned?" Yeah, the Sergeant Earache had the same question, and yes, I am seriously considering it. I'm actually planning it. I'm plotting and planning it. I have so many ideas that I want to do on this channel, just to see what I like and what I don't like. And yet, the simplest idea of all, simply chatting formlessly about the books I love most. I don't pick and choose. I don't have any production value in my videos, but the video that I have enjoyed making the most so far in 2023 is one I made today, talking about the Two Towers, which I've talked about a million times before. So I don't know what explains that, but it felt wonderful. I could have gone on for 2 hours today on that one chapter, and God knows what I'll do tomorrow with the Rohirrim. God knows what I will do. But anyway, uh, Sean G says, "Well, no one has ever been hurt by a gun." Oh, you're back. That's not true. It is a bad idea for you to attempt casuistry with someone who was trained by the Jesuits. That is just a bad idea. I don't know how to put this diplomatically. The tricks that you are pulling, if this is sarcasm, you're very good at it. If you mean it legitimately, you've learned these tricks from morons on Fox News. I am not a moron, and I've had 10 times the training that all of them put together have had in casuistry and sophistry. So it's a bad idea to try these things on me. It, this is a silly turn of phrase that you are using, that no one has been hurt by a gun. Do you seriously think that I or anyone else thinks that somewhere in the world there is an unknown Amazonian tribe of guns that walk around on their own? Do you seriously think that? You do not think that. You do not believe the implications of this silly line that you are using. You personally do not believe what you have typed. No one is saying that guns are sentient and walk around and hurt people. You know exactly what people mean. You know exactly what I meant when I said guns are the problem. I gave you a perfect illustration. I put you in the illustration so that you would know that I was right, so that you would know what your own reaction would be unless you are simply lying to me and to yourself. I gave you an illustration. A coworker who you violently hate and who violently hates you. One day you're alone in the break room with that person or in the parking garage, and the next day you're alone in that parking garage with that person and a loaded gun. You would not view those two situations the same. In fact, you would go out of your way to avoid the second situation. That means the gun makes the difference. I'm not saying that guns get up out of bed and kill people. Obviously, I'm not, nor is anyone saying that. I am saying guns are the problem. Okay? Guns are the problem. Just like if I were to use this idiotic Fox News type of rhetoric, I would say, well, cancer doesn't kill people. Cancer is just a mindless disease. I mean, yes, your heart shuts down, or yes, your liver shuts down, but the cancer is just multiplying. It's not doing anything. It doesn't work. You shouldn't do it. And if by some chance, I don't believe this, but if by some chance you actually believe this kind of rhetoric, what you should do is sit alone in a room and have a cold, clear moment with yourself. Because if you are saying these kinds of things and you believe them, you have been badly mentally conditioned. And I'm far away from you. If you were here in this room over wine and calzones, you wouldn't leave the room believing this kind of crap. But you're not here, and you can do it on your own. If you seriously believe no one has ever been hurt by a gun, that's not true. Hundreds of thousands of people every year are hurt by guns. Record-breaking numbers of Americans are hurt by guns every year. If you say that in a shooting a person wasn't hurt by a gun, what are you saying did the damage? Human didn't do the damage. The gun is the tool that the human used. It's a silly bit of casuistry. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that reading guy says, is Stephen Markley's new novel worth reading, or is it 800 pages of Twitter politics? It's a lot of Twitter politics. A lot. Probably too much to save it. Emma Miles did on Booktube did a video did a review for Open Letters that covered a lot of the points that I would cover. She was more harsh with it than I was, but I hate to say it of the author of Ohio, but I would say that this book probably isn't worth your time. I say that because I'm extra mindful of the fact that reading time is really scarce for a lot of you. You have to claw and scratch for it. I admire the way you all do it. Given that, no, it isn't. It isn't worth your time to do. What has gone on here? The chat jumped again. Goodness gracious. Or did it? Oh my God. Well, at least I'm not being booted out of my own chat. But I want to find the last thing I looked at, which was about Stephen Markley. Oh, there we go. Okay, Matt Sheridan. Lauren Boebert reminds me of a maliciously psychopathic version of Gretchen from Mean Girls, except she can write law. It's going to take me a while to get over that comment. We need to get those numbers up with just that snide Matt Gaetz smile, that I am a supervillain and I'm embracing that smile. People are going to die. While she was saying that, someone in America was being shot to death. It's beyond grotesque. And it's sticking with me, even though the news has passed over it already to Chinese balloons and stuff like that. Matt Sheridan is back. MTG made an absolute fool of herself on her first committee hearing. Surprise, surprise. Yes, she did, although she didn't think she did. All of the lefty news commentators or the centrist news commentators all said that she was humiliated. That was the big word that I think that was in Brian Tyler Cohen's video on the subject. MTG humiliated in big capital letters. She wasn't humiliated at all. She high-fived her staff when she went back to her office. She thought it went great. You're not humiliated if you don't know that you are. Anyway, Gandhi Engel says, thank you. I will keep an eye out for it. I don't know what you're referring to. Oliver Anderson. Me and my friends have a two-person book club. She's as adventurous a reader as me and much faster. We read Dostoevsky and Michael Chabon together before. We're not afraid of a challenge. Good for you. What a friend to have. I'm lucky that I have a lot of friends like that, but no, not as, they don't read as fast as I do, but a lot of them are adventurous. A lot of my reading friends can't be adventurous because they don't have the time. They're locked into a certain thing that they review. And so they can't go straying into works of literature and whatnot. Although it's just possible that when you come to Dostoevsky, you should keep an eye out for the new Michael Katz translation of The Brothers Karamazov, not Crime and Punishment. I know there's a version of Crime and Punishment out there translated by Michael Katz that has, well, the mother of all cover blurbs. You really have to have that edition. You really can't have any other edition. But it's just possible that there may be an equally interesting blurb on the Brothers Karamazov when it comes out in what, March, I think, something like that. Could be. We'll talk about it on my channel. Kevin J. Ann says, any chance we could get your top pick from last year, Pogue Mahone on a future case of STD? No chance at all. There's no chance at all. I loved it though. Sid says, that sounds fantastic. I don't know what you mean. Do you mean my voice? My voice is mighty sexy. I'm kind of amazed at how you're all standing it so well. Ravens fan 1961 says, Steve, did you like the Philip Short biography of Vladimir Putin? I'm currently reading it and am really enjoying it. I liked it, yes. If you say I'm currently reading it and I'm really enjoying it, and you mean the reading experience, the page turning experience, then I agree completely. I had my problems with it. I don't think it was backed by the most aggressive research. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of aggressive research on Putin that this guy decided to steer clear of for whatever reason, and shouldn't, and shouldn't. This is a guy who might launch thermonuclear war on Europe. No one should be pulling punches with him at all. But I'm glad you're liking it. It certainly is. It was enjoyable. Uh, Although I don't remember that being the author's name. Maybe I'm thinking of a different Putin book, in which case I'm endorsing something that I haven't read. Let's see here. J. Scott Phillips says, I thought I've seen a fireplace in some of your videos. Ever stoke up cheery fire to warm things up? I wish. A fire in the fireplace warms a room like nothing. Oh my God. That would be what you wouldn't see the custom knitwear. It's lovely that I have custom Booktube knitwear. Two Booktube friends that have both been here at Hyde Cottage in person. J. Scott Phillips has not been. Someday we'll have to fix that. But there is a fireplace here, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And this summer, there's just a facade of a fireplace. Before last year, there was an actual fireplace that, with a little work, could have been made to work. Now there is merely the facade. There's merely the appearance of a fireplace because the brickwork was removed all summer long. So no, I don't. I don't remember. I don't think that the house up in Vermont, Mark's house, has a working fireplace. I don't think it does. Boy, it should though. That would be great. That would warm up that house plan. There's one huge room that is half of the first floor of the house, and the reason for that plan is because it was expected that you would be warming the whole room with a fireplace. It would work great, but I think the space where his fireplace would be is now one of those giant plasma screen TVs. Smith Dukakis says, how would you periodize your Booktube career? Your ancient pre-Trump in praise of chunkers video popped up in feed. Lots of redolent qualities, but I think a different screen presence. Do you really? Ooh, that's interesting. Well, see, in answer to your question, I wouldn't periodize. I would leave it to you to do that. I would leave it to viewers to do that. I think in my very earliest videos, I am far more soft spoken. And one person, I don't know if you're in the chat, but one person emailed me, noticed that, and immediately guessed the correct answer, which is that I didn't want to disturb my girls. I had Lucy under my left elbow, and Malin is often visible on my right-hand side. And at that point, they were old and ailing. Noises alarmed them. Agitation on my part alarmed them. They didn't ignore me anymore. They were very much afraid. They were growing afraid of how sick and old they were feeling. And that led me to be far more soft-spoken, far gentler. And a number of people have pointed out that started to change once Malin died. because Frida doesn't care. She doesn't care how loud I am. She will get to that point, but she doesn't care now. But what about other ways? I don't know. It would be for somebody else to say. I'm a lot more comfortable on Booktube. That happens when you get hashtagged. You survive that. You survive cancellation. You're a lot more comfortable where you are. And also, I feel like I know you people a lot better. Even though the people have changed, the names have changed. I feel like like I have established the feeling of a relationship on this channel that is palpable even if you're brand new. I think that I have established that relationship. I have managed to do it. My friend Deb would say, "You've made customers out of them." Just there, it's just exactly the same relationship as you had with customers at the information desk at the bookstore. You're not selling them anything, but you weren't selling customers anything then either, even when management told you to. Instead, you've created that, you've made them into customers because you couldn't live without it. And maybe she's right, but don't tell her I said that. Maybe she's right, but one way or another, there's this there's this relationship, right? I mean, I don't have any rules on my channel, but there are some things that people know. I will not tolerate personal insults. I do not accept the 21st century new behavior where you start a relationship with someone by personally insulting them and then you just expect that it'll go on from there. They'll claw their way back from that and then you'll have a friendship. Now that ends things. That ends things. Once upon a time, for 270,000 years of human history, it didn't end things. Not necessarily. You could apologize for the insult. But no one apologizes for anything at all now, under any circumstances whatsoever, for any reason imaginable. Not even when, and especially not when they are wrong and know they're wrong. So apologies now, for the first time in human history, don't exist anymore. They're out. They're not part of the lexicon anymore. In a generation, your young kids will have to Google what that was. And when they do, they will really think, boy, I would really like it if this still existed. But it doesn't. It's not coming back. So uh, people know that. But at the same time, the people know that I absolutely do not tolerate personal insults directed at me or directed at anybody else. You people also know that although I don't tolerate personal insults, I love friendly ribbing. The harsher, the better. Giving it and taking it. I love that. And also that you all seem to get me really well. And I think I get a lot of you. That is much more pronounced now than it was in for instance, my first year. But I would need somebody else to tell me how to periodize. I don't know. Blue Laser Horizon says, now we know why you will never go full Kindle. You need your books to insulate the house. I'm wishing now, thanks to J. Scott Phillips, I'm wishing that I had a working fireplace. That would be really nice. Golem tonight's going to be brutal. Tonight's going to be 1 degree, or I don't know. Actually, I think it's predicted to go below 0 degrees Fahrenheit tonight for the first time. Yes, it is. It's predicted to get all the way down to -6. At sunrise, it will be -6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's mighty cold. That's 30 degrees away from water freezing. That's the point where I worry about my sparrows. They live in the wainscoting of the house, and I worry that they won't survive that kind of a cold. One night of that kind of a cold. I left out lots of extra food for them to give them fuel, but I don't know. I'm hoping that I see their smiling faces tomorrow. That would be great. Uh, but anyway, Gola Muad'Dib says that was a great video. Boromir is one of my favorites. Amazing character. I agree. Oh, you're talking about my Two Towers video. I had a blast. I don't think I'm going to be able to resist doing the same thing tomorrow. I think we're going to do the first meeting with the riders of the Rohirrim tomorrow. I'm pretty sure. Uh, Joanna Burgess says, I don't remember it being this cold in my neck of the Maine woods. Well, I haven't asked Deb today how cold it is up where she is, but it's got to be it's 20 degrees colder in Vermont. So Maine, it's got to be even colder than that. Hamilton Tom, oh no, Spaminator. Any reading that is not for pleasure is not for me. We agree for the first time ever. Hamilton Thompson says, is there enough wheat in the Hobbit movie trilogy chaff to make it watchable 2+ hour The Hobbit? No. No, the Hobbits are a fundamental misfire. I've had this, people have asked this question since the third one came out. Could you stitch together an actual 2 hour Hobbit movie out of this mess? I don't believe that it's possible to do. I daydream about the 2 hour movie that Peter Jackson could have made of The Hobbit. I think about his adaptation of King Kong and how great it was. And I think if he had done that, instead of being told by the studio suits, we need you to make 3 movies and they need to be overblown and they need to look like video games and amusement park rides because we're going to monetize the hell out of this thing. So do it. If he hadn't done that, I don't know that any other director would have taken that job, and then maybe we would have got a 2-hour Hobbit movie. But no, I don't think that it's salvageable. No. Gola Muad'Dib is back. Listen to the CPL radio episode of Dune and the Silmarillion today. Loved it. As we had a barn burner of an episode today on The Naked and the Dead by Norman Mailer. So much fun. So much fun to do. Martin S. I downloaded The Prisoner of Zenda, so I'll be reading that and A Distant Mirror this weekend. I always watch Michael K. Vaughan. Very interesting that he picked Prisoner of Zenda. I don't know why. A lot of the picks for his year-long itinerary, I intensely know why. I know why a lot of them, because he is just so thoroughly a creature of the pulps. Edgar Rice Burroughs is connected with almost every book he picked in some way or other. Why he didn't just do a year-long Edgar Rice Burroughs, I don't know. But I was pleased with the pick for Prisoner of Zenda because once upon a time, I mean, you'd never guess it now, but once upon a time, it was the most popular novel in the world. And I want to know what literally a new century, a century later, what are readers making of Ruritanian fiction, these little pocket kingdoms and the dramas that happen in them, almost always involving lookalikes and doubles. Which people always say that Anthony Hope, the author of Prisoner of Zenda, really kicked off the Ruritanian subgenre of these little pocket kingdoms. But I've never really believed that. The joy of Prisoner of Zenda or McCutcheon's Grostark novels, which is how I was introduced to the genre. I love the Grostark novels so much, and they are pure Ruritanian novels. But people look at those and think, all right, well, it's a pocket kingdom and there are doubles in play and there's all sorts of, swordplay and skullduggery. Surely it's Anthony Hope that started that. But no, it's Mark Twain. That's the Prince and the Pauper. It's not a fake kingdom. It's England, but still, all the elements of Ruritanian fiction are there. But anyway, at least somebody talked about Prisoner of Zenda. It was Martin S. Great. Orthia NZ says, I actually caught this when you are live. Yes, we've been live for an hour and a half. And we have had more people in the chat than ever before on a steady basis, average-wise, I would say. Shoemaker says, I'm reading mostly nonfiction, but I meet Michael's recommendation on comics. Yes, I'm trembling with anticipation. He gets to pick what we do on Comic Book Wednesday, and I have no idea what he's going to pick for Wednesday. I watched his video today. He found an extra container of lost books and went through them today. I was watching, and for every volume that he held up some great old Conan mass market paperbacks that I have here. He didn't fold out. They have fold out posters on the inside cover, and he didn't do that for some reason. But for every one of those where he held it up and cheered, he would then hold up something that chilled me to the blood, worrying that he was going to make it our pick for Comic Book Wednesday. He held up Concrete. If you want to know how interesting Concrete is, just read the title of the comic. He held up Dinosaurs and Cadillacs. Oh my God. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. I do. Oh my God. Oh my God. Modesty Blazes next, I assume. I'm hoping that he veers towards superheroes. Let's see here. Hamilton Thompson. I enjoy Michael K. Vaughan's channel. His personality and enthusiasm is great. I did commit to STD this month. Time is the issue. Yes, time is the issue for all of you. It's just terrible. My heart goes out to you. Tidy said, how I laughed when I realized that Dante put Bertrand de Born in hell holding his head for a lantern. Amazing. The Spaminator's back. I will absolutely be reading more Dune. After finishing first book recently, the more I think about it, the more I love it. Yes, just don't read any of Brian Herbert's books and you'll be fine. Reed Becca says, Brent, oh, you're gone. Wait a minute. Reed Becca, I don't want to miss your comment. Where are you? I think the chat is going crazy because there are so many people here. 100 people. That's insane. Reed Becca, where are you? Oh, there you go. Brandon's Bookshelf did a good video on Chat GPT. You should check that out first thing. Yeah, if Brandon did a video about it, then that's where I'll go first. But I'll do a rabbit hole on it and see what it is. Lisa Garrity, Roger and Rhonda are amazing. Michael is also pretty good. The STD plus the other books I have committed to Just don't leave enough time for The Prisoner of Zenda. You might be surprised how little time you need for The Prisoner of Zenda. It is mighty readable. It is really good, cheesy fun. Uh, the Spaminator's back. You like the Hannibal Lecter novels? Do tell. I love them. I think they're fantastic. That reading guy, a chapter by chapter read along of your favorite books would be so much fun. No, don't tempt me. Don't encourage me. That would be terrible. Also, what happened to the year of reading through favorite authors? Well, like I said last year, I want a lot of company for something like that, and I don't think I'm going to get it. So I will read favorite authors, but there won't be a concerted booktube thing. I wanted a lot of company. Michael, for instance, Michael Vaughn is doing reading Edgar Rice Burroughs all year long, but not everybody is. He's doing Edgar Rice Burroughs. Mark Richards is doing a long read along of Forrester, of the Hornblower novels. Um, I kind of wanted more, so I do it on my channel anyway. So Gola Muad'Dib says Spaminator. Each Dune book gets better than the last. It's turned into my favorite series. Cinephil says, "Hi Steve, longtime watcher. I'm a cinema man myself." Well, so am I. I don't talk about it much on my channel, but I have an enormous history watching cinema of all non-pretentious kinds, and I do like talking about it. We were talking about that earlier in the chat. That I am strongly contemplating some sort of regular movie-oriented thing on this channel. I just want it to be somehow connected to books, but that's not hard to do. Sid, who's your favorite Shakespeare character, and why is it Crab from Two Gentlemen of Verona? It's not Crab from Two Gentlemen of Verona. I'm surprised that you would even need to ask who it would be. Gandhi Angle says Bill Maher had a guest on his show who showed him how AI was able to write a monologue for his show. Maher was not amused. Well, I don't doubt that he wouldn't be amused. And the thing is that AI is quantitative. You get the quality that comes out the other end is because of the quantity that goes in the one end. So, for instance, so prolific people like me, I've probably written 5 million words that are available that someone could feed into an algorithm. Whereas critics who are choosier or not as prolific, there wouldn't be as much to feed into an algorithm to come out with an AI Steve. uh, let's see here. Gola Muad'Dib says, speaking of Hannibal, did you watch the series? Mindhunter was great too. I believe the book inspired the Hannibal books. The book did partially inspire the Hannibal books, and I did watch the series. I really liked it. I viewed it as fan fiction, much like I viewed Rings of Power, only good fan fiction. And that was not an invitation for this Stevestream to be hijacked into a conversation about Rings of Power. That was not what this is. I really liked it, though. I thought that Will Graham was miscast. My eyes were not objecting to that casting at any point, but I didn't think that it worked at all. But Hannibal Lecter was well cast, and so was Jack Crawford. I I, I was pleased with the show just in general and visually. Oh my! I mean, it had all of the faults, right, that you expect now in modern TV. That kind of look at me, ma. I'm the biggest sadist on the block. That kind of outdoing the next guy in terms of sadomasochism. But it was marginally acceptable in context when you're talking about Hannibal Lecter. Uh, Hamilton Thompson, I would like to go to nominate a Stevestream for Oscar night, which is coming up fast. Steve, can you make your predictions and we can all watch the show together and discuss? Once upon a time, I made Oscar predictions, but I'm not going to make them at all anymore. No, no, because in my opinion, a lot of you will have a different opinion. You won't agree with me, and that's okay. But in my opinion, Hollywood has been completely co-opted by Twitter, completely co-opted by so-called woke ideologies. So the Oscar ceremony has nothing to do with the quality of the movies any more than book prizes anymore have anything to do with the quality of the book. It'll be what it will involve is not a panel of people at the Academy studying the movies. It will be a panel of their younger experts and young relatives studying the Twitter and Instagram feeds of the creators. And I'm not going to do that, and I have no interest in that. So, and that is the result. I'm not saying that affects the result. That is the result. So it doesn't interest me at all. And Hamilton Thompson says, "Don't slap me," because that was the single highlight. Spaminator says, "My dog just farted and looked at his butt." Okay, thanks for sharing that. That's great. Um, James Rucala says, downloading Prisoner of Zenda right now. Yes, indeed. Let me know if you would like me to send you a copy. But you can download it free from Project Gutenberg. That's the whole point of Mike's video, of Mike's club, is that it doesn't cost you anything. I'm just thinking that I was worried about that for my own book club, but so many people have got a copy of Distant Mirror and sent me a picture of it with their pig or their snake or their cat or their dog, that it's obviously not a problem. I'm getting the impression that everybody's buying budget can handle one book a month, and a lot we'll have to make it a standing rule, a standing sort of consideration, that you email me if there's a chance for an ebook, so that you don't have to spend any money at all. There is a chance for that in any given month. We'll have to see, but uh, but you're going to love it. I think you're going to love it. Cinephil says, "Let's talk honestly. Being an addict, and I am uh, an addict of cinema. Is that what you're referring to?" Matt Sheridan, I have to ask, how's your Lex Friedman watching going? I'm still down the rabbit hole. Although I have been told that he does pronounce it Friedman, even though he doesn't spell it that way. I am still down the rabbit hole. He talks a lot about books. He talks a lot of crap about books. His book reading is so intensely predictable. It's almost like a parody. It's almost like he knows it, like he's playing a part. But boy, oh boy, does he launder a whole lot of dangerous nonsense when he's not talking about books. I'm still watching. I am still contemplating the epic return of Bro Watch. Uh, Gandhi Angle says the book on Chiang Kai shek. Uh, okay, what is? I mentioned a book on. It's called something like Magnanimous in Defeat. It has an interesting title. I just don't remember it, and I don't think I have a copy uh, within reach, but it's very good. I don't know what kind of coverage it will get. A lot of critics out there will think that Kai-shek is too deep a subject. I'm not sure that I can do it in a book review, or I'm going to shy away from it because it requires a lot of research. Don't want an expert to write in and say that I'm wrong. Uh, but I'm hoping that it does. Uh, Gandhi Angles again. I did not enjoy the writing of Philip Short's book on Putin. Oh, you did not? Okay. So maybe I'm not thinking of the right Putin book. Uh, let's see here. Ty Dee says, we have a video on William Blake, please. Not from me, you can't, but it could still happen for somebody else. Alex Hardy says, howdy again from uh, Dokesta. Oh, Dorchester, Steve. Maybe you've said elsewhere, but how do you feel about Zora Neale Hurston? It's coming up on my TBR. I like Zora Neale Hurston. And I like Dorchester as well. Jeffrey Clark, Steve, is your hat protection from the Chinese spy balloon? No, no, this is a gift from Hannah at Hannah's Books. She made me a devil incarnate devil horn hat. It's just because it's chilly here. No one needs any protection from the Chinese spy balloon. Gandhi Angle says, I am still reeling that Beverly Gage's book on J. Edgar Hoover did not make your top list. I sincerely hope it is a contender for a Pulitzer. Uh, well, there were a lot of good books on my list. I mean, you shouldn't reveal completely. I wasn't picking blindly, after all. But no, it didn't make my list. Every book on my list is better than it is. And it has a chance for a Pulitzer, but not because of its quality. The quality is what impressed you, but that is immaterial to book prizes. What you need to do is research not the book, but Beverly Gage. How high is she on the progressive stack? She's a woman, so that's good. But we have to know her race. We have to know the race of her parents. We have to know the immigration status of her grandparents. We have to know whether or not she has a gay child or a neurodivergent child. Those are the things that will determine whether or not her book gets on the short list for the Pulitzer or wins the Pulitzer. That has nothing to do with the book. So it's just a question of how much time you want to put in investigating her. That's all. You're also going to have to go back 2 or 3 years on her Twitter and make sure that all the opinions that she's expressed on every subject, especially political or social subjects, is the right opinion. And by coincidence, that will be your opinion. So it takes a lot of work to do. But fortunately, or unfortunately, for the first time ever, the work does not include reading the book. uh, James Rucala says, by the time you finish scrolling through Netflix, half the films have been removed. I heard, who did I hear today? Was it William Gwynn of the Brothers Gwynn Somebody said today that the theatrical release versions of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings are coming back to Netflix. I don't remember where I heard that, but but we'll see. I haven't even looked at Netflix, but I think that's the route that I want to go. I think I want to do Netflix and not Amazon Prime or HBO or anything like that. I think Netflix is still sort of the go-to movie subscription service. I think I want to go to them and see about a regular discussion of a movie and a book on Netflix so that you could go and look at it yourself. Uh, let's see here. Joanna Burgess says the weather service calling for a negative 84 with wind chill on top of our mountain. Good Lord. Oh my God. Oh my God. I feel so sorry for the animals that live up there. Uh, let's see here. Aaron Hook says, I reread The Eagle Has Landed this week, and it's made me think how best-selling authors like Higgins, Wilbur Smith, and my favorite, Dennis Wheatley, quickly fade away from in public consciousness. Yes. Yes, they do. We have booktube events that can revive some of them. Uh, Unfortunately, not all of them. We need another big booktube event uh, for pop culture, for pop literature. I don't know what you'd call it. A bestseller list, maybe you would call it, where you would go over these big, gigantic bestsellers that have completely faded. They did not retain a toehold for whatever reason. Michael K. Vaughan this morning on his video on his channel held up one of those, Ernest Meyer's Once an Eagle, which was everywhere once upon a time. It was a huge bestseller. Nobody remembers it now. Nobody reads it. No one's ever going to reprint it. And all of the people that you name are the same way. We need to have a booktube event that captures them. It can't be Garbogust because a lot of them are really good. They're too good. They aren't really garbage. There isn't such an event as far as I know. Gholam Muad'Dib says, I have Herbert's The God Makers, Destination Void, and Direct Descent to read after I finish the Dune series. What one do you think I should read first? Isn't one of those part of a series? They aren't all part of a series, are they? Or maybe they are. I always get the precise order of the science fiction series that he did mixed up, but I'm pretty sure that Destination Void is in that series. Whatever. I don't think Direct Descent is. Godmakers might be. The Jesus Incident is, and you didn't mention that. They're much of a muchness. So you'll be just if you read this. There's a series out there, a trilogy. If you read that in order, you'll be fine. Although a reread of the Dune books wouldn't be amiss either. The Spaminator, in the pro wrestling world, friendly ribbing is a major component of building trust in the ring. It often turns to physical pranks. One rule, you don't do it in front of the crowd. Is that true? You seem to know a lot about the wrestling world. Is that true? You don't do it in front of the crowd. Oh, no, because the crowd has to believe the heels versus babyface routine, right? The crowd has to believe that you hate each other. So you don't do that in front. You do that behind the scenes to make sure that you're both on the same page as friends. I could see that. That would make sense. One way or another, I love the relationship that has developed on this channel. Absolutely love it. I look forward to it every day. When I was sick a couple of weeks ago, it bothered me that I missed talking to my imaginary booktube friends. I really did. Okay, Auntie Gaia is having a spasm at the keyboard and writing all sorts of thanks. Thank you for the trash. Okay. Panza de Sancho says, hello, Steve. Do you recommend any books similar to Black Lamb and Gray Falcon? Similar in what way? I'd need to know which. It's got a million aspects to it. I'd need to know which aspect you're talking about. In the really, really intelligent travelogue way, I strongly recommend Barbara Grizzuti Harrison's Italian Days. Big book called Italian Days. Cannot recommend that book strongly enough. But that only reflects one fragment of Black Lamb and Gray Falcon, and Barbara wouldn't have been the first person to admit it. So I need to know which fragment you're talking about. Oh, the chat went crazy again on me. Good Lord. Where were we here? J. Scott Phillips. I'd mentioned I am reading The Prisoner of Zenda for Michael K. Vaughan's challenge, but then I'm afraid of getting in trouble for not also reading A Distant Mirror. You called that. You are reading A Distant Mirror and Prisoner of Zenda and The Two Towers. Or Frida and I are coming over there. Okay, you are reading all of that. Perhaps you were under the mistaken impression that Booktube was a friendly place. No, no, we're the mob. We're the reading Casa Nostra. So you are reading A Distant Mirror, Paisan. Hope that's clear. Aaron Hook, Steve, what do you make of Winston Churchill's only novel, Savrola, which I've been told is in the Rotarian romance subgenre? I've only read it once. It was atrocious. But it is. It is in the subgenre. But don't waste your time on it if you can find a copy of the Grostark novels by McCutcheon, which now that I think of it, they might all be on Project Gutenberg. He was a best-selling author. They were incredibly popular books. I think that Beverly of Grostark, the sequel to Grostark, sold better than Prisoner of Zenda. Uh, they might all be on Project Gutenberg. Oh, if they are, I hope they have the Philip Gibbs illustrations. Those illustrations are so wonderful. If they were scanned, I mean, no one's going to claim the copyright to them. Maybe Project Gutenberg scanned the illustrations. That would be wonderful. Auntie Gaia is, thank you for trashing The Killing Joke. Hated that graphic novel. Yes, I hated it a lot. I enjoyed the discussion. I got a lot of really good comments and also a lot of really good emails about the discussion. I love that anyway. That's why I love the fact that Mike is in charge of the picking. Because oftentimes he picks things that I would never voluntarily talk about myself, and those invariably get more response than the ones that are predictable on my account. Although I could still live with him picking a predictable thing next time. Uh, uh, D Temple 54 says reading the Catton history of the Army of the Republic, brilliant. Oh, good. Tech problems. Anti-Gaia had tech problems, not a spasm with the keyboard. J. Scott Phillips says, but I am jumping into FFS already into Sword and Sorcery Week. Okay, you emphasize am as if you're distinguishing, but as I've cleared up, you are jumping into everything. All of it, including A Distant Mirror. Or you're like totally canceled. Hamilton Thompson says, cold and blowing wind tonight and tomorrow, good weather to hunker down inside and do me some reading. Already behind in my 2023 goals. I'm ahead in my 2023 goals. Feeling very good about that. But you're right, it is hunker down weather if you're lucky enough to have power. And then you just have to hope. I mean, in Boston, the Boston area, we just have to go through tomorrow. And then this will be a distant memory. The weather will be in the mid 50s. So you won't have to even think about it. Won't have to run the heat at all. The Spaminator. We should indeed talk about films more. My favorite movie is The Wolf Man from 1941. 1941 was 100 years ago. I've loved the old Universal monster movies almost since birth. Jack Crawford in the Hannibal TV show was the best part, in my opinion. I'm glad you watched the Hannibal TV show, it being in color and a talkie and all. Orthia NZ says, I'm looking for an editor for my book. What do you think are the most important elements of a good editor? They should be assertive but not bossy. There are some editors out there, freelance editors, who take a job for money, who want you to rewrite the book in their image. And you should avoid them like a plague. There are some freelance editors out there who are accustomed to bossing around their clients. And the minute you see that, assertive is one thing, but bossy is another thing. Just politely say, I've come to the conclusion that this relationship is not going to work. I'm going to sever it now before we go any further. Also thorough. And the assertiveness is important because you want someone who's going to push against your own momentum, your own inclinations. That's part of the reason that you get it. Part of the reason you get an editor is to pick apart the things that you weren't seeing clearly because you're too close to the work. But another thing that you're too close to see is your own momentum. And an editor doesn't have that. And they'll know whether or not the momentum in the work is healthy. And they can be assertive about that. Just there's a fine line, but that's the main thing. You want an editor who's assertive but not controlling. So good luck. Don't fall in love right away. You want to be absolutely sure that you pick the right person. Monet Doyle says it's after 8. Yes, it is indeed after 8. Taylor Brock, I don't really care about celebrity awards, but now I actively don't care since Warner Brothers, Disney, and Oscars got diversity quotas. They're open about it. Once upon a time, quotas was a form of scorn, but they're open about it now. And they say, at least Warner Brothers says it's, and Warner Brothers and Disney both say that those quotas are more important. They are the most important element in their movie making going forward, as they put it. That stunned me the first time I heard a Disney executive say that. This is the most important thing that we're concentrating on. Literally saying that it's more important than writing, directing, cinematography, ideas, anything. Uh, now that you know that, now that these places are directly saying that, well, you're forewarned. So, Hamilton Thompson, any genres you're staying away from for our prospective STDs? Maybe do a poll with multiple Steve approved books. There will be no polls, and there are no genres that I'm on principle staying away from. But I'm pretty sure of what I'm doing. I think I know exactly the kind of books that I want to do. Uh, DeSelby says the 1937 movie version of The Prisoner of Zenda is great fare, Steve. The cast is great. A boy's own story, similar to early Barris. Oh, God, I knew you were going to bring up the Scarlet Pimpernel. I knew somebody was going to. I agree. Well, of course I agree. The 1937 Prisoner of Zenda, the 30s version of The Prisoner of Zenda is great. Of course I agree with that. I think Mike held up a Penguin Classic with a still from that movie on the cover. I had that Penguin Classic trade paperback once upon a time. Uh, Prisoner of Zenda is pretty much a perfect example of the kind of book that I would have on ebook and not taking up shelf space. Pretty much the perfect example of that. But uh, okay, what was I going to say to DeSelby's point? I like the movie. Oh, I was gonna continue. I was gonna move on from diversity quotas by saying that my blood would freeze cold if somebody announced they were doing a new version of Prisoner of Zenda. Can you imagine? I don't even want to imagine it. Can you imagine? It's like Alex Hardy. Also, I'm cold, or at best lukewarm, on Grapes of Wrath and Mice and Men, but I've not yet read East of Eden. How would you say it compares to the former two books? Well, if you're cold on Mice and Men, then you're cold on Steinbeck, I think, because what he does in the longer works, Grapes of Wrath and East of Eden, is just more of that. If you didn't like of Mice and Men, you're probably not going to like Steinbeck, except maybe the Log of the Sea of Cortez. But in terms of the two big books, I think that East of Eden is far more enjoyable than the Grapes of Wrath. I know that a lot of Steinbeck fans radically disagree with me, but I've always found it so. So maybe you'll have luck. Kevin O'Connell says, "Have you read The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul G. Tremblay? What did you think of it?" Could swear I've had this question before. Don't think that I have. I think the last time I got this question, I mentioned the movie, the new is it M Night Shyamalan movie that, with Dave Bautista. I think the last time I saw this question, I mentioned that. Gandhi Angle says, "What was missing in her book that disqualified Gage from making your list again with the Gage? What are you, a nephew or something?" I thought it was a little bit flat. Uh, it was a little bit too. I'm here now. I'd like my paycheck. I don't tend to do anything as a biography. I have a pretty high level of sensitivity to that. I like a biography to do more than that. It was still good. I'm not slagging it. Anti Gaia, Lord of the Rings is on Netflix right now. Oh my god! Oh my god! I might watch The Fellowship tonight. Uh, Shaq Book says, now that the other person has mentioned, I was also looking for William Blake video on your channel to see how you approach him. I'm surprised there's not anything on him. Is there a reason? I don't like him. And that's why. That's the reason. There will never be a read along. There have been no dedicated videos. There are no books, virtually no books. He makes more appearances in my science fiction and fantasy collection than he does in my Penguin Classic collection because he is a character in an Alvin Maker book by Orson Scott Card. Hamilton Thompson. Oh, I lost you. Hamilton Thompson, you disappeared on me. Where did you go? Oh, there we go. I got a fantastic deal bundle for Disney Hulu during Christmas. That's enough for this year for me. I agree. That's a lot. Uh, Matt Sheridan. The heel babyface dynamic has been dead. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was protected at all costs. Uh, Gola Muad'Dib says, "Did you watch Jodorowsky's Dune? I just saw it. The guy is out of his mind. I have seen it. I agree." Lisa Garrity, wait a minute. I can have Frito visit if I don't read all three. Done. Let me know when you're coming and I'll have the dog treats out. Frito and I should hit the road. Just visit people all over the place. Why should the Richardses be the only ones to suffer? Gandhi Angle says a new book coming out in March on Chiang Kai-shek is Victorious in Defeat. That's the one, by Alexander Pantsoff. That's the one. I forget who the translator is, but that's the one. Victorious in Defeat. I think I said Magnanimous in Defeat. But that's the one, and it's terrific. Don't miss it if you're interested in the subject. Uh, the Spaminator says, yes, Steve, I do seem to know a whole lot about pro wrestling world because, as I've mentioned many times, I'm a pro wrestler when I'm not semi-supervillaining you senile 28-year-old so-and-so. I forgot. I was supposed to remember every little detail of your life. Spaminator, assertive is one thing, insertive is another. I can't take you anywhere. Matt Sheridan says, Steve, you and I should start our own movie review show and joust like Siskel and Ebert. Well, we'd have to know how the chemistry works. Siskel and Ebert didn't know their chemistry would work before they started. The chemistry is the unpredictable X factor in anything like that. As I've learned with CPL Radio, with Book of the Day, you don't know what the chemistry is. And if the chemistry doesn't work and you're locked in, you're sunk. And that's why so many network morning talk show co-hosts hate each other, because they can't walk away. The chemistry doesn't work and there's nothing they can do about it. Panza de Sancho says, yes, that was the aspect I was looking for. Just starting out Black Lamb and Grey Falcon in the old blue hardcover, and it is consistently mesmerizing. It is amazing. I think you'll find the same thing with Italian Days, and it's a lot shorter. Trish Bovell, I picked up a stack of books for the cold weekend, but I just remembered that this is Garb August Lost Weekend. Yes, this is the wasted weekend. Are there any trashy books on your weekend plans? I haven't quite decided, because I don't have weekend plans. I read a lot more than the rest of you do. So I usually decide in the course of an evening what I'm going to read that night. And I haven't decided yet. Of course, I'm going to work trash into my reading for the weekend. I just haven't decided what it is. And I'm trying not to be cynical about it, because, my standard answer would be that if I just read this week's new releases for the weekend, there's going to be a lot of trash. I'm trying not to be cynical. Because that's not the kind of trash that Garb August is all about, right? It's about trash that's in on the joke, that not a new book that wants to be good and is abysmally awful. So I need to figure it out. I just haven't done it yet. I have a vast reservoir of trash I haven't tapped into. Hamilton Thompson, are there any of the best American series of books that you try to get every year? What on earth does that mean? Try to get? What, have I been fired or something? I get them all every year. I don't try to get them. Or do you mean try to get to? Oh, you did say try to. No, you said try to get. But I'm assuming you mean try to get to. I get to them all as well. They're an incredible anthology series. So I get them all every year and I read them all every year. Aaron Hook says the diversity quota business is coming up against the Equality Act in the UK, as the RAF is refusing to recruit white men, but the act covers social class and white men are largely working class. It's the perfect way to get me into trouble on a Stevestream. I have a million thoughts on the subject. It is unbelievable to me that institutionalized racism like this has just become the norm right in front of all of us. And the worst aspect of it is not, of course, that a bunch of qualified people are losing jobs or simply not being considered for jobs. There are several major firms, investment firms, advocacy firms, litigation firms in Manhattan that won't tell you this. You sign an NDA the minute you walk into the office. Nothing is recorded in your interview, where you are simply told, we no longer hire white people. And you just walk out. And that's just that. You have to go somewhere else. You have to find some other profession, because your profession doesn't hire white people anymore. I'm amazed that has taken hold. And I'm amazed that there's been nothing in the way of, widespread class action suits or anything like that. It's open discrimination. It's illegal, especially when it's stated outright by the employer. And yet there hasn't been anything like that. But that doesn't matter. That does matter. But the worst effect by far is how much it empowers the alt-right. They're feeding off that. And that is what the 2024 election in America is going to be all about. That's the only thing it's going to be about. Anyway, the Spaminator. Oh, picked up the Oxford Book of English Ghost Stories based on your library tour. As a horror junkie, it looks amazing. Love the cover art. This is amazing. Really good anthology. Hamilton Thompson says, do you think the next Log of LJFK book was delayed to give the author time to review the newest government documents from last year? No. No, I don't. I think it was it. I don't think that it's severely delayed, but I think the problem is that the author underestimated just how much documentation there is from the Kennedy administration. Uh, I'm really hoping that the second book is a lot better than the first book. I'm really hoping that. J. Scott Phillips, Steve, any updates on the Bookish Bryants? Haven't heard from them in a while. Well, it sounded to me like they had the a nightmarish Christmas season where they had a massive pipe burst and were homeless. Had to, while it was being repaired and dealt with, they had to go and live with the in-laws. And I know from experience that that can throw your whole life off. So that even when you get back to where you belong, the old rhythms don't recoalesce right away. I'm assuming, I'm hope that would be the best case scenario. I'm hoping that that's the case, that they're just badly discombobulated, and when they get their ducks in a row, they'll just come back to BookTube. I certainly miss them. Ty Didi says, "Did have you read the new translation of Office Metamorphoses by Stephen McCarter? And if so, have any opinions?" We had to go all this time, 2 hours, to a have you read question. But boy, oh boy, was it worth it. Because it isn't just a have you read question. It's have you read the latest translation of your single favorite book in the world? And do you have any thoughts about it? So it was a have you read question. It took a long time to happen. We didn't have any for 2 hours, but boy, was it worth it. And now I'm going to have a heart attack. uh, uh, Gandhi Angle says, Age of Vice was a great ride, not worthy of any literary prizes, perhaps, but reminded me of Sidney Sheldon and Jackie Collins. No, it wasn't worth any literary prizes, but I'm glad that you liked it. I lost the chat again. That reading guy, I should be doing homework now, but I have to keep my eyes on the prize at all times. Well, I just mentioned in the wake of an absolutely epic have you read question, a new translation of Ovid's Metamorphoses. And if you read it, do you have any thoughts about it? In the wake of that, I looked at the clock and realized we've been doing this for 2 hours. So you should be doing homework, and so should I. So should everybody. So we should wrap this up. We should look at 10 past the hour to wrap this up. But the Spaminator, the heel versus babyface dynamic is still very alive, but in a different way. That earlier comment when the commenter said it's dead and it's been dead for a long time, that struck me as wrong. I don't know the world as well as you do, but I'm interested to say, what are you going to say now? It's alive in a very different way. Now the wrestling industry is exposed. We can focus on the physical theater, telling a story with your body. I much prefer it. Interesting. But you still have to have villains and heroes, right? The heel versus babyface routine has to still be there. Hamilton Thompson, a weekly Steve stream would be good format for this week in BookTube or last week with Steve Donahue. Well, this week I think I'm going to get some lost time out of my system. So it's going to be a lot more than weekly this week. But after that, a weekly Steve stream, certainly, at least that. But there's no sense trying to give it a structure, obviously, as you can tell from this stream. I had an idea going in here. We barely touched on it. I had to ask you people 10 times if anybody out there is reading Prisoner of Zenda before I even got one answer. So a structure for these things is useless. And that reminds me, doing this and having so much fun reminds me that trying to do a dedicated Voxer, dedicated Steve stream discussion of Distant Mirror would be useless, utterly useless. And that rules out pretty much everything except a video or series of videos. And you can all contact me privately anyway. So I have some thinking to do, but this reminds me that this won't work. I would go in with 10 minutes of prefatory commentary about Distant Mirror, and in 10 minutes, we'd be talking about Chinese spy balloons. Matt Sheridan, random question. What happened to the Rhodeses? Are they on BookTube anymore? They aren't on BookTube anymore, and I actually don't know what happened to them. I've lost touch with them both. Some of you might not know what Matt Sheridan is talking about. Chris Rose was a booktuber a long time ago. First, he had long rock star hair. Then he cut his hair and got married to another booktuber, Giselle Bradley, who became Giselle Rhodes. And I got to know them through BookTube. I left comments on Chris's videos, and we realized, Chris and Giselle and I realized that they lived near me and they had a car. So we met, and then we met a couple more times, and I was on their BookTube channel. And it was their strong suggestion that, you don't have to have any old person fear about technology. You could certainly do this. You could do a BookTube channel of your own. They even did a video. I don't know if Chris's channel is still up, but he did a video called Get a BookTube Channel, Steve. in which we went to Boston Public Library book sale, I think, and we talked for a while. It was a lot of fun. My girls are in a lot of those older videos, and the comments field was absolutely full of people saying, "Oh, Steve should get a BookTube channel," which is why when I started a BookTube channel, I started with something like 50 or 60 subscribers. I didn't have to achieve any kind of milestone. I started already with an audience thanks to Chris and Giselle, but I have fallen completely out of touch with them. I have no idea where they are. Chris was commuting into Boston to work every day, but that was years ago. I haven't talked to them since before the pandemic. Uh, Sue's Book Nook is here. And there's another old timer. Chris Rose is an old name, and so is Sue. Sue was there right at the beginning. Right at the beginning. Just yeah. Hashtag a whole bunch of people vilifying me as Satan incarnate. Sue was in a handful of people. Just ignore them. Just ignore them completely. Joe, the retired book nerd. Olive, of course. People just this group of people saying, just ignore them. We want you here. We can. Sue and Olive and Joe and all these other people saying, uh, we've got really good people instincts. If you were evil, we wouldn't want you here. We wouldn't encourage you to stay. But anyway, so here I am eulogizing you, and I should be answering your comment. Hello, just saw this live chat. Yeah, but we're wrapping up this live chat because it's gone on a long time, but we're wrapping it up. Where's the bean? It's cold here as well, but outside, not inside. The bean is right here. In fact, she's really adorable. Look at the pose that she's in. She's just crashed. Absolutely crashed. I have noticed recently, I almost don't want to. Actually, Sue, you will know exactly what I mean. I have noticed recently, just this year, that every once in a while, there'll be some noise or somebody will come or go when Frida is comfortable on the couch, and she will lift her head, and I will see the thought cross her mind. I should leap off the couch and go and examine this. And then she'll decide not to do it for the first time. She'll decide not to do it. The sleeping, it's just a tiny bit deeper, a tiny bit more dedicated. The reluctance to be out in the cold or in extreme heat, just a little bit more pronounced. She's 6 years old. I couldn't put this off forever, and it's not really strong at all. She's still a dynamo, but I'm sure that you remember that moment. You don't want to see it. You don't want to see it, but nevertheless, she's fine. She's absolutely fine. We once we wrap up this Stevestream, which is going to happen, uh, we need to go on one last potty break for the night, and it is almost afraid to look. It is 3 degrees outside. Oh no, it changed. Well, it updated. It is 1 degree outside. 1 degree Fahrenheit. So that's not going to be pleasant at all. Not in the slightest, but she's fine otherwise. I wish that I could say that it's not cold inside. It's not cold in here, but this is an old house. It's a rickety house. It's a drafty house. So even with the heat going, there's no way to really seal and button it up. J. Scott Phillips mentioned earlier, wouldn't it be great if my fireplace worked? Oh my God, it would be, because this room would be toasty warm, but it doesn't work. So, Matt Sheridan, random question. What other kind have we had tonight? What happened to oh no, there's the roses. We already asked it. We're on to Sue's book now. J. Scott Phillips. Wait, oh my God, I lost you. Let's get back to where you were. Uh, have you ever read Milton, Captain? It's a shame for a good Scotsman to admit it. But I'm not up on my Milton. Andy Curley Books. Speaking of the Kennedys, what's your thought on the whole JFK Jr. not being dead and is Trump's running mate? I don't understand how this could possibly have gained traction. I don't understand how anything of QAnon could have gained traction. I have no idea. And they have 10 Congress people. So they're not going anywhere. They have 10 people in serious power. So I have no idea where any of it comes from. None whatsoever. There are photographs of JFK's body, clearly identifiable. The police dive team took photographs of him in the cockpit at the wheel. Very placid, very clear conditions. You can easily identify everyone in the plane. Those photographs have never been made public, but they do exist. And the divers have given public testimony. There is no doubt whatsoever. In other words, needless to say, I don't know where it comes from. No idea at all. Uh, Ty Dee says, I am sorry. Baha, I knew it's your favorite book, but it came out recently. Yes, if you're referring to Ovid's Metamorphoses in the New English translation that came out last year, so not recently by my clock. Just you win. If that's what you're wondering about, you win. That was the most epic "Have you read?" question I've ever had on a Steve Stream. I had to wait 2 hours for it. Hamilton Thompson, new Steve rule. First, have you read question, the stream ends. Well, I don't know. Sometimes they happen very early. Uh, let's see here. Matt Sheridan says, I meant the heel babyface dynamic was dead in the context of kayfabe. Oh, okay. Aaron Hook, when I was a child, my mom nagged my stepdad to put up shelves in the kitchen, and he finally decided to do it mid-morning Christmas Day. The first nail went through a water pipe. My mom was apoplectic. Andrew Russell, would you ever do a Dickens read along? Nope. Hamilton Thompson, maybe do a QAnon video with our submitted questions and comments screened beforehand. Why try to attract their attention? Why would I do that? The Spaminator. The heel versus babyface routine is still there as part of the theater fare, but now we can play with it in less believable ways. For instance, I'm a heel, but my tag partner is a face. Now that's fun. Jeffrey Clark, Steve, you should get your own reality show, Keeping Up with the Donahue. That's not very real. The Spaminator, and we currently hold the tag title belts. Goodness gracious. Matt Sheridan. Oh my God. Last wrestling match I was at was Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano for the NXT Championship, and it was epic. Uh, Geo Craftsman, my sister knitted me a replica of that hat, and I wear it often during the winter. Yes, I didn't see this coming. This is Hannah's commentary on the fact that a good, solid proportion of Booktube thinks I'm Satan incarnate. Still, still does. And the older generation incorporates it to the new generation. They teach the new generation of Booktubers, this guy is evil. He has unsanctioned wrong opinions. Uh, but we're wrapping this up, right? Because we said 10 past the hour and it's now 9 past the hour. So we're wrapping this up. Gola Muad'Dib says that it is -5 in Wenham, which tells me two things. One, that it's very cold in Wenham, and two, that you, Gola Muad'Dib, are within driving distance of Hyde Cottage for Friday night wine and calzones and a little miniature schnauzer screaming at you, and yet you have never done that. Do I smell? Oh, wait. Blue Laser Ryan, we have got Let Steve Go. Sweet and Frida can snuggle up and watch Fellowship of the Ring. I am severely tempted, knowing that the Jackson movies are on Netflix. I'm severely tempted. I do have a whole night of reading that I had planned to do. Spaminator is talking to Matt Sheridan about wrestling. Matt Sheridan says he's not far from Boston either. That means two. Gola Muad'Dib and Matt Sheridan could both be here for Friday Night Wine and Calzones. I like Friday Night Wine and Calzones. I don't do it anymore, but I like it. It'd be nice to do. But anyway, it is now 10 past the hour. That reading guy says, how many beagles has the bean met? She's never met a beagle. We don't have one anywhere in our neighborhood. So she's never met one. She's met a basset hound now. She's met a pointer. We met a pointer last year, and there was not the slightest bit of recognition anywhere in her mind. That was a melancholy moment. I loved meeting that pointer. This pointer looked physically identical to Malin, and there wasn't the slightest hint of recognition, meaning that Frida was too young to remember Malin. So there really was no passing of the torch. Frida never met Lucy. That is amazing to me. And she does not remember Malin. So effectively, she never met Malin either. So there's a gap, and there's no beagles in the neighborhood that we run across. So, but anyway, yes, Gandhi Angles is the right idea because we're saying bye. We have to wrap this. This has been enormous fun and better attended than any Steve Streams ever been. But we have to wrap this up. Matt Sheridan is saying good night. Matt Sheridan also needs to think about coming for a visit. Orthia NZ says, thank you, Steve. You got me through a couple of hours of work. Well, yes. Well, I should be thanking all of you because this was enormous fun. It was long overdue. We haven't had a Steve Stream in a long time. This is the first one in this year, right? Pretty sure. We went a whole month without them. Pretty sure. But we determined a few things. We determined that Matt Sheridan and Gola Muad'Dib will be coming over. We determined that J. Scott Phillips is going to be reading A Distant Mirror. We determined a few things, but nevertheless, we have to wrap things up. This was a ton of fun. Sooner or later, at some point, I have noticed that the Steve streams on my channel, when you look at them as a video, don't show the chat. Sooner or later, someone's going to have to explain to me how I fix that. I know that it's fixable because I watch chat videos that do show the chat, but I'm reading out everything, so it doesn't matter anyway. But we're going to wrap things up, and I will be back for another Steve stream probably tomorrow night. I don't doubt it. It'll probably be tomorrow night. It probably just won't be as long. But anyway, I can't thank you enough. I really can't thank you all enough. This has been so much fun. So I'm gonna wrap this up and get through this 1 degree night, and it's going below that. It's going to 6 below 0. Uh, Here's hoping the pipes don't freeze. But other than that, we'll just get through it, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you, Booktube.